Welcome back everyone to the third round of the Oklahoma City FIDE tournament. In this round I'm playing Zurab Javakadze, and I am from Dallas, Texas. And he's actually the top seed in the event, so obviously, and I got a double white, so you know, can't complain with that. I began with a game with e4, and he actually showed up like 10 minutes late. And then he came and he thought for like 5 minutes on his first move, because he played Modern against me last time we played. I also know he can play Sicilian or e5 or really any opening, but he plays this. And I decided to play Knight f3, Knight c6, and then move Knight c3. This is the 4 knights, a reputation, an opening for a that has a reputation of being relatively dry. My logic behind playing this opening was that I'm going to play a solid game, and if he overpresses, then I can get some kind of advantage and play for a win. If he doesn't overpress, okay, it's just a draw. Not the worst result in the world. So Knight f6, I played d4, and I was fully expecting him to play something like Bishop to b4. Like some sideline, because I knew he didn't expect this, and he probably wanted to deviate, and I have preparation. I was going to take on e5 with my knight. And there's queen e7, queen d3, and I have some prep in this. But he played the main line, and I'm not going to play a Belgrade gambit. That is pretty bad. I played knight takes d4, bishop to b4, knight takes c6, b takes, bishop d3. This is all mainline Scotch theory, castles, castles. Now there's a few different moves here. d5 is overwhelmingly the best move. There's also rook e8 as an option, but it's considered not the best. So I took, and here there is bishop g4, which is a move, although f3 and it gets kind of like you sack 2 pawns, but you get the activity. It's a line that would have kept a few more pieces on the board, and it could have been something he could have considered, but he decided just to take back, which is the principled way of playing the position. I played the move bishop to g5, just pinning this knight to the queen, and I have a very immediate threat here. If he plays like a random move, I can take knight takes d5, and I win a pawn and likely the game, because I'm just up a pawn. So my opponent here instead, he decided to play c6, which is again still mainline theory. And then here I played the move queen f3. There's a few different moves, but I think queen f3 is objectively the best, because you're putting immediate pressure on the knight, and you're going to try and take it. And what I actually expected is that he would play bishop to e7, which is a move that keeps more pieces on the board. It stops your pawns from being doubled. And here I was going to play h3 and rook ae1. I would slowly just build up a solid position and make him come to me. That's the idea. Like h6, bishop f4, something like bishop to e6, rook ae1, something like this, and build up the position slowly over time. But he decides to force the matter with h6. And I was a little bit confused, because this does allow me to just trade off all the pieces. I take the knight, I take the queen, and then knight e2. And I knew, okay, my extent of my preparation in this line is I put the knight on d4, knight f5 would trade to a drawn endgame, and also attack the pawn. So I'm like, okay. I only looked at bishop d6 ever, because then knight d4, c5, knight f5, and this is just a dead draw. And I'm fine with that. You know, if he doesn't overpress, it's just a draw. I don't really have much chance to press. Rook e8, knight d4, and then c5. I'm like, okay. Here, I considered a few things. Knight f5 actually loses the game to c4. And then I can take the pawn, king g7, knight f5, king f8, and I just lose the game. And I calculate, okay, I lose. Well, my original idea now was to throw the move c3, which is what I did in the game. Now, if he takes the knight, I take this, and the pawns are never going anywhere. And this is just much better for me. If he takes this pawn, this is, again, just a dead draw. I mean, like, if anyone's playing for a win, it's white, because I have the target on the pawn on d5, and the pawn structure is bad. But it's still just a complete draw. And bishop a5, my idea was to play the move knight to f5 to try and do the same thing, right? But c4 now, I have a getaway. So c4 now, I can take, come back to f5, and I thought it was in good shape. It turns out that I realized that I can't do this is because takes rook a b8, and this pawn is undefendable. I'm just losing this pawn. I have to play b4, takes it, and I have to defend this super uncomfortable endgame. It's a defensible endgame, mind you, but it is not something I wanted to play. And I'm like, okay, if I have to go for that, I can, but I really didn't want to. So here I came up with the idea bishop to b5. My original idea was to play knight b3. But then bishop b6 and to go here. But the problem is he gets his rook to the most optimal square, rook d8, and I do not really have much. That's why I played this first. Because now, if the rook goes to d8, I have knight c6. And there is a line here that's bishop d7, but I have this, and I didn't see this during the game. Maybe I would have found it over the board, but knight takes d8. And then this looks like it's very strong, but knight b7. Takes, I take this. Bishop to b6, my opponent, like this position, it's equal material, but my knight's going to get to f5. Once my knight's on f5, I can never lose. It's always white playing for 2 results in this game. So I was quite happy with that. And this is like the kind of game I wanted. It was like, okay, I see the force draw. There's a force draw line I saw when I played bishop to b5. I'm like, okay, if he goes for that, so be it. It's a draw. But there's also moves like a rook. By the way, moves like rook e4, they don't work as bishop c6. And like this just loses everything. So like, and you can't go anywhere. Rook f8 also, I should note, loses to knight c6 and like knight e7, and this is not good at all. It doesn't lose, but it gives me the good position. I apologize, a fan just turned on. I don't know if you can hear, but takes. And this is the forced draw line, and he does go for it, sadly. I was kind of hoping he would mess up a little bit there, hoping he'd overpress, but it takes. Bishop to a6, bishop to c6, rook c8 only move. I take the pawn, takes, and I took an offer to draw. And the reason it's drawn is because rook takes c3. I play a move like bishop to b3. If anyone's playing for a win, it's white, but white is never going to win this. Like, this pawn is the only target in the position. Sure, if my rook was on d7, maybe I have chances. Even then, it might still be a draw. Actually, probably not, but he can play a move like rook c7, and it's just a complete draw. Like, rook d1, I can't get in. He just plays bishop b6. Like, there's no point playing this on. It's just a waste of time. So that was my round 3 game. It was a pretty uneventful draw. After this bishop b5 move, he did liquidate out. I was kind of hoping he would maybe try and play on and give himself some less than favorable position, but it is what it is. And a draw is not a bad result. Tomorrow, I'm also almost CM. I thought it was going to be CM, but I calculated I'm like 2190, like 6 or something. But a win tomorrow will push me over, so we'll see how I do. And yeah, I'll see y'all for round 4. Alright, bye.